So, good evening, all. Okay, so first of all, a very big thank you to all of you for joining this demo session, okay, and giving me an opportunity to showcase a small demo, okay, related to big data. So, here in this big data pipeline, okay, again, this is one of my project scenario. As I said earlier, I won't be taking the entire pipeline because it will be having a lots of coding. Okay, so this is just a simple demo I have kept wherein I would be utilizing like few components of AWS services. Okay, so I have taken a very simple JSON file which is intended to push to S3. Okay, and again this can be automated via Boto3 script, but as of now I would be using AWS CLI. Okay, we'll automate this once we go into training program. Then the idea would be, okay, so moving this file, okay, from the landing area, okay, to the raw area. That's how the project flows. And here I would be using one of the service, that is AWS Lambda, which is again a serverless service. And this in turn would be using a Python and Boto3 code. That's how it would be. Okay, so just to get started, okay, let me quickly open my CMD prompt, okay, and I'll just try to do a configure. Okay, so I would be configuring, and again these configurations here I'm trying to do in a hard coded way, but in projects we would be doing using a parameterization. Okay, so let me do this quickly for you so that and I'll tell you why we are doing this. Okay, so I'm just copy pasting my access key and my secret key. Okay, what AWS intend to suggest us, okay, try to use your regions which are closer to your geographical areas. Okay, but for now, as I'm just going with the defaulting things. Okay, so that's like, again, don't worry about the code, as I have told a little while earlier, don't bother about it. Okay, don't bother about the code, just see what I'm trying to do with a patient mind. Cool, so let's go over here. So what will happen is, okay, the client will be sending you files to that. It could be JSON files, it could be Parquet files, or it could be some dat or .txt files. They would be sending you to landing areas. Okay, so in projects we have like SFTP setup, or in my project we have CD, which is a connect direct setup. So through those mechanism or on an automated way, okay, what happens is the files gets landed to a particular area. Okay, and here I won't be showing you that. The reason for that is like automation needs to be set up, so I will not be using that. So here I will be using a manual approach. So there is a JSON files. Okay, we'll use AWS CLI to push the file to my S3 bucket. So in S3 I'll create a folder or a bucket. Okay, so the files will land over here. Then the idea is to move the files from here, and later on the remaining process gets started. So in my project we have like implementations of aggregation tables, implementation of CDC, implementation of SCD2, and so on. So we'll not dive into that more of coding part, so I'll just try to keep it a little simple. Okay, okay, so let me go over here. Very simple command if you are coming from a Linux background or Unix background. Okay, so you just need to say AWS. The service which I am trying to use is S3. Okay, and I'm trying to do ls. A very simple command which all Unix people might be knowing it. Okay, so what I would do is, just for this demo purpose, I will try to create a bucket. Now what is bucket? Don't worry about it. Okay, so as I keep on telling you all these things, don't bother about the code, the syntaxes, or the small piece of intermediate level code which I would be writing. Just take it as it is coming. So I'm trying to create a bucket, okay, and that bucket name we will mention, let's say Saif, let's say demo, and let's give today, so that is demo format, or let's give, in place of this, yeah, let's give demo and let's give src. I'm trying to create a bucket. Okay, so it is giving me a message that this is created. Now if I try to do ls, I should be able to see that bucket which I have written. Okay, so at the same time what I will do is I will try to create one more bucket with the name TGT. Okay, because the idea or the end goal is Once the client is sending the files, there should be a mechanism where the files are automatically moved from one location to the other location. Like how the files get landed, we do archive, okay, and we send to a certain location. So in that area, the small example would be helpful. Okay, so what I have done is I have created two buckets, one for source, one for target. Okay, this is the manual process which I am trying to do in this. So the file is kept over here, and I would be pushing this file from this location. Okay, just to verify, go to your S3. Okay, I'll just do a quick refresh, and there should be two buckets which we created. Okay, so the bucket name are nothing but demo with src and tgt. If I go over here and if I try to do a refresh, there are no files available over here. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to push it from here. So let me clear the screen. AWS, again S3. So what I'm trying to do, simple command is nothing but cp. So this is your source location. As I'm trying to do, I'm trying to use a Windows platform. So I'm just making small adjustment to the slashes or forward slashes. Okay, so this is my file, and I need to push this file to a location. We just created a bucket that was this. It's a very simple command. Okay, so if you see upload is successful, if you come over here, so we should be able to see this file. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll quickly open one more bucket, one more UI for S3 because I don't want to move back forth, so I will keep everything clean. So here if I see, there is no file. The idea is once the client is sending the file, it should automatically get copied over here. For that, okay, we would be using one of the serverless service, okay, that is Lambda. Okay, so this is a service which we would be using, and here I would be writing the code. Okay, a very small code, not small code, but a very easy level code, so don't get bogged about it. It's very easy. So let me create a okay, first of all, okay, so as I told you again, AWS is one of the service, okay, sorry, AWS provides you lots of services to do different work. Okay, if you take an example, okay, so if you see I'm trying to deliver a session, so I'm using Google Meet. There could be other approaches also. Maybe people can use Zoom sessions, Teams, and so on. Okay, different. So each service is provided by any of the cloud, whether it could be GCP, whether it could be Azure, or whether it could be AWS. Everyone is providing most of the time same services with a different name, but each services has its own capabilities. Like I am a trainer, so and a developer. My core responsibilities is nothing but a trainer and developer. There could be someone in this session, okay, who is coming from a reporting background. So his or her core services or core things would be like reporting. So that's how in AWS, each service has its own work. So here I'm trying to show you two services. Okay, cool. Let's move on and let me create a very simple function. Okay, and I will just say this is like demo for Monday. So which will be copying the file which is from S3 source to S3 target. Try to always naming convention should be very good, because people who coming from IT industry, they may know this, because it's very important for you all to follow proper naming convention, because in projects the codes and everything becomes so huge, so everything like has to maintain a certain good practices. As I would be using Python, okay, so I'm using Python 3.10. Okay, now when it comes to permission, now if you go back to this diagram, okay, so this Lambda would be reading the data from S3 and it would be writing the data to S3. So it needs certain authorization, or it needs certain privileges. Okay, so what we would be doing, or what I would be doing over here is, okay, can you see this IAM console? So I'm just doing a single click on this and a new tab gets open. I would be creating a role, okay, which will allow to do this work. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and okay. Before that, okay, I'll show you. Okay, let's not go into those things. It will again eat up some time. Okay, I'm trying to write. I'm trying to use a service that is AWS service on, and the service name is Lambda. Okay, that is what I'm trying to pick it up. Let's say next. Now here, as I told you, I would be reading the data from S3. So as of now, just to keep it simple, I'm trying to use full access. Okay, let's make a move and just give some name. Okay, so I'll say this is a role, okay, for Monday, and let's say this is for demo. That's the name I'm trying to give. And a role is created, a very simple and straight role. Okay, cool. Let's come back over here. Just do a quick refresh. And in this drop down, okay, we should see our role. Okay, that role is there, and create the function. Very few steps and your function gets created. Now here, you should be able to write your code. Okay, a default function is given by AWS, that is Lambda handler. In this we have two parameters or arguments. What you can say is one is event and one is context. I'll explain you what they contains. Okay, if you want to see that, simply what we will do is, let's write a small print statement just to see the output of that. What do they contain? Okay, so this is my event and this is my context. Whenever you write any piece of code in AWS Lambda service, you always need to deploy first before executing the code. Let's not fall into the billing part. Again, that will be taken care later in the training area. Okay. Now, when I'm trying to test this, okay, it needs some data. So when we are in the development phase, what developers do is, okay, they try to use some dummy data, and I'll show you after this how I will use a dummy data. But as of now, I'm just naming something. Let's say dummy data. Okay, so this is the dummy data used, but I won't use this. I will use the actual data, but I will show you how. Let me save this. And now let me test this. Now if you see, this is the output of my event and this is the output of my context. Okay, don't worry, all these things you'll get to know very minutely ahead. So these are the two things which I have written, but the idea is, or the requirement is, when someone is pushing the file, okay, we should get something. Okay, so we'll be jumping onto that. But before that, okay, so let's go to the monitor area. Can you see there is an, I'll tell you why this is coming on, and let me pull this towards the left hand side because we'll come back to that. Okay, now if I click on this CloudWatch logs, I will not be able to see any logs. Okay, okay, so if you see, it is not able to show. So for that, what we need to do is, and it's clearly telling, okay, if you want to do something, you need to have certain privileges. So what I'll do is, I'll quickly copy this. I'll go to my IAM service. Just a little while earlier, we created this role. I'll go to this permission and I'll attach a policy with this name, so that moving ahead, whatever work I'm trying to do, okay, so I will be able to see this. So if you read this, it is clearly saying your function doesn't have a permission to write to CloudWatch logs. Why it is required? Because when we are in the development phase, we would be testing our code multiple times, and based on the code which we are trying to write as a developer, we need to see what is the outcome of that based on the client requirement. So to get associated or to get a clarity, we always see the logs, like people, how you know, like the console as an output. Okay, so that's what I have done over here. Now if you go over here, it should be able to do that. Okay, so later on we will do this. So this is the CloudWatch logs. Let it get open. Cool. So there are some errors, forget about this, don't worry about that. Okay, so this is now if you see, there is nothing. Now what we will do is, I'll go over, yeah, let's go over here, and I will try to remove this file from this. So there is a command called rm, okay, and I need to remove this file from the bucket which I created. So I'll just say that file name over here. Okay, so just a quick delete. I could have done this graphically also, but just keeping a CLI approach. Okay, the file is removed, and as of now, see, if you see over here, okay, so there are no logs which we are able to see. Okay, and if so, it's running a little slow, that's okay. Okay, cool. So let me go over here and let me just press up arrow and let me push this file again from my base location to my AWS bucket. A very simple command, re-executing, nothing else. It will get uploaded. See, now when I'm trying to upload this, okay, let's come back to the diagram. When the file is getting uploaded, okay, what this Lambda should do, it needs to create a trigger. As soon as the file is available, it should apply a trigger and do some work. Okay, and that is we have not handled over here. Okay, so that's why what we will do is, okay, we will try to apply first a trigger. Okay, so we'll try to apply a trigger and let's see how it gets. Okay, how to apply a trigger, and let me come back over here. So this is the code. Okay, and I just wanted to show one thing. Okay, so let's go back to the test, and I think we have saved this. Yeah, so this is saved. Yeah, that looks good. Let's do one quick execution of this code again. We are able to see a dummy output, looks good. Let me go to the monitor and let me come back to the CloudWatch logs. So I just wanted to show you the same output which I am trying to see this. Okay, what the output which I am trying to see. I just wanted to show you over here, nothing else. That's the only thing. Can you see now we are getting one log file? Let me just expand this, and this is what I wanted to show you. Okay, sometimes there is a lag. So if you see, this is the event, okay, and this is the context. Now if you see in this context, we are getting a lot of information. Okay, and how to retrieve the information, that's the code which we would be writing now. Okay, now if you see this is the event which is happening. Okay, and this is a dummy event, but the idea is for us, as soon as the client is pushing any file, a event should get triggered on that bucket for that particular file. That is what our goal is. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll quickly go to my, let me go back over here and let me remove this file. Okay, so let me remove this. Yeah, the file is removed. Okay, so let's go back to AWS Lambda. Okay, and what I will do is I will try to add a trigger. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to add a trigger on S3. Okay, the bucket you need to provide, the bucket which we just created fresh for the demo purpose, I would be using that. Rest all information, sometimes what happens is we just pick only CSV files, sometimes we pick only .parquet file, so you can give your suffix and prefix. As of now, for demo purpose, I'm just keeping it very straight and simple. So what is the next step I have done? I have just added a trigger. Okay, now if what I will do is just to show you a clean implementation, let me quickly delete this. Otherwise, even if the fresh one will be always on the top, but let me just show you a fresh so that looks good. Okay, so now in the source bucket, okay, apologies. So if you see in the source, there is no file. Let me go back to my CLI and let me push this file. Very simple command, okay, which we had just written. Let's come back over here. The file is available. Okay, in this Lambda, what we have done, we have applied a trigger. As soon as the file is done, there should be something happening. It would have happened, and if I do a refresh, okay, so it may be a little, sometimes it gives a little latency, so let's wait for that. So a trigger should have applied. Okay, and let's come to the code. So we should see some output. Okay, so if you see here, we are able to see that this is the earlier one. Let me do a quick refresh. Are we able to see the log? No. Okay, cool. So let's come back and let's test it over here. So we are still seeing the old one. Okay, so the idea was to show you how the context is coming. Okay, so if you see, a log is generated. So I'm a little impatient and it happens sometimes. Okay, so let's click on this And again, but if you see, we are not able to see that what I was looking for. Okay, actually this is, have I applied like Saif demo src? So let me just check. Let me go to my trigger. Oh, sorry. So let's, oh, didn't we save that? Yeah. So let's scroll a little down. Yeah, so it is applied rightly. So it is on all object created. Okay, so that looks good to me. Let me go back over here. If it is not applied, then maybe like we can make a move for writing the code, so should not be a problem. But ideally I wanted to show you exactly that piece, why that piece is not coming. So that is like, let me just give me one last try. Ideally it should see the context output. Okay, so that is what I was looking for. So let me go back. So this is my TGT, I won't go over here. So let me go to demo source. What I'll do is I'll just try to re-upload this. Okay, so this is now I'm trying to do from graphically UI. Okay, so what I would have done over here, I would have removed it and I would have just copied it. Okay, so that two steps as I'm just trying to do in one step. Okay, over here. So it's just like how you do overwrite in any platform. So the same thing I have done over here. Okay, so that is the Lambda code which we have written. Okay, so that should apply a trigger. Okay, and that trigger should invoke it. So let's see why we are not able to see the output, sorry, that log, because that is important to write the code. Otherwise the code which I will write, okay, so you may not be able to understand like what is the code I'm trying to write. Okay, so let's wait for some time. We are getting an event, but I wanted the actual event because this is the file which we are uploading on this S3 bucket. It means that some event is happening, and in this Lambda what we have written is we have written a function, and this function is pointing to this S3. It means if any activity is happening in this S3, it should trigger an Lambda code, and this is a very small code. In this we should see the output or the information related to this bucket and this JSON file. That is what I am looking for. Okay, so looks pale, nothing is there. Cool. So let's do one thing. Let's go back over here. Okay, and let me delete this Lambda code. I don't think so that should be any issue because we have applied it perfectly. So let's apply a Lambda trigger again. So this is applying a trigger. Okay, and that trigger is on S3. So the bucket which we are using is this. I hope the bucket which I created, okay, is in North Virginia region, and again by default it falls into North Virginia region only. So if I scroll a little down, yes, it is in North Virginia region, because otherwise CRR will come into picture, that is cross region replication or playing with this. So it's all objects. That looks good. Okay, so and I'll acknowledge this. Now it will give us an error. Okay, so it pops up beautifully, so that is okay. Cool. So let's go back to the, let me delete this again. Okay, so if this time it does not populate, okay, I'll just remove the context somewhere from and I'll just play. So first let me do a remove of this file. So can you see this RM? Okay, I'm removing this file. Let me remove this. So let's enter. Let me go to the end and press enter. Okay, let's do a quick verification whether the file is gone from that and bucket from, yeah, the file is gone. Let's come back over here. Let's clear the screen and let's copy the file again. Again, what I'm doing is a very simple command. I'm just trying to copy the object. Let's do a quick refresh and the file is available. Okay, so ideally this should get triggered on that. Let's see what log we get this time. Yeah, beautiful. This is what I was expecting. Okay, earlier if you see, I'll just quickly copy it from here. Okay, and I'll take a notepad, and I think I've already taken a notepad. Let me paste this. Can you see this? This is a whole bunch of information we are getting. Okay, how we are getting? because of Lambda. Okay, so Lambda is applying a trigger as soon as some event is happening, okay, on the S3. And that event could be put object, okay, post object, okay, delete object, whatever. For us, the scenario is put. Okay, so once I'm putting this, I'm getting this event. Okay, earlier, what we were able to see this dummy data. Okay, now we will be writing the actual code. So let's come to the requirement now. So the requirement is, as soon as the client pushes the file over here, we need to take the file from this and push it over here. As simple as that. Okay, cool. Let's come back over here. Let me quickly copy this. Now for demonstration purpose, okay, what I will show you is, okay, I'll go over here, maybe like the people, okay. So I'll be using one of the JSON viewer, okay, and I'll show you how I'm writing this or building this code. I'll paste this entire, format this, and I'll go to the viewer option. Most of the people would be knowing this, okay, JSON, like we always have like the data in the form of key value and sometimes in the nested arrays also, and that's how complex data processing happens in projects. So here I'm keeping it simple. So whenever a file is getting uploaded, event is getting triggered, and this is the information we are getting. So I'm getting this. In this, I'm getting S3, and I want this bucket name, and I want this object name. Simple and straight. Because from this bucket, I want to pick this file, and I want to push this file over here. That's what the code I would be writing it. Okay, and what I would do is, every time I won't run my Lambda code. The reason for that is the number of time you run the code, okay, the data, the number of seconds it gets executed, okay, it gets built. So what I would do is I would just try to apply that code on dummy data. So let me format this. There is an error correcting. Okay, I got it. What's the issue? Let me go back over here and let me replace because it expects in double quotes. Let's do small changes. Control A, Control V, let's do a quick format. Beautiful, that's sorted, and let's see this. Now this is the dummy data on which I would be writing the code. Okay, first I will validate the code here only, and then actually I will go back. Okay, so let me go back, and don't get bothered, okay, as again I am reiterating, don't get bothered about this code, what the code I am writing. It's like very easy and straightforward code. Okay, and that again it would be taken care very minutely at a later stage. Cool. So now this is not required because we have already seen what it is coming. So here, okay, so I would be taking the help of Boto3, as I told you. Boto3, what is Boto3? It's a client interface, okay, which you can use, okay, to interact between AWS, sorry, it's a Python SDK, okay, which gives the ability to interact between AWS services, okay, using Python. Okay, so that's for that purpose I would be using it. So what I will do is I will just name few things. So let's say I'm trying to use a source bucket. Okay, now as I told you, I'm getting event, right? Did you see this? So here, if I scroll a little up, okay, so this is an event which I'm getting. In this event, what I'm getting first, records, right? So what I will do, again, this is a Python code which I'm trying to write. From that records, okay, what I want, 0. So let me go back, okay, and let me take 0. From that 0, I want to take S3. So let me go over here, okay, and let me take S3. From that S3, if I just scroll a little down, I want to take a bucket. So let me go back over here and let me say bucket. Okay, and from that bucket, the key would be name, and finally I will get my output as a value. So what I would say, simply I would say name over here. Quickly I'll copy this piece of code, okay, paste it over here, okay, and why I am doing this you'll get to know a little. So I'll just print that code also, code output also. So here I want the file name, I will traverse, okay, and here I want this key. In place of going to bucket, I will go to object, and in object I would go for key. Okay, so here I will go for object, and here I will go for key. And simply what we will do is, just for testing purpose, let's take source object, let's take object key. As I said, always whenever you do any changes in the code, always deploy the code. Okay, and now let's test this code on the dummy data. Let's execute this. Either there could be some errors or you will get some output. Can you see now I'm getting the bucket name, and in that bucket I'm getting this file name. So my first problem or first piece of code is ready. Okay, so now what I want to do from this bucket, I want to take this object and I want to upload into another bucket. Okay, that is what I want to do. So this is not required now. For that purpose, again, there are some Boto 3 documentation which we need to go, and again, like this is my day-to-day work, so I remember this. So I'll quickly write the code, and maybe like this would be taken a little later. Okay, so I want to take this from my source to the target bucket. Okay, and the target bucket, okay, so the target bucket which we have created, okay, using a CLI approach. Okay, so this is nothing but Saif demo TGT. So here I'm trying to use something, okay, and this is part of Boto 3 coding. Okay, so don't get bothered about it. Okay, so what I'm writing, why I'm writing, okay, it takes certain arguments. So the first argument which it would be expecting is bucket. Okay, and I'll give the bucket name from the variable which we just created. Then I would be taking a key. Okay, so these are the two things which is required. So the bucket is coming from here. Let me quickly copy this and let me paste this over here. So let me be consistent in my code writing skill, otherwise it will not look good. Somewhere I'm giving spaces, somewhere I'm not giving. Okay, so this I'm pasting it over here. Okay, so that's a simple thing. Now let me write something. Okay, so let me write a try and except block in which I would be writing my code. Okay, now I would be using some waiters. Now don't get into this. What are these waiters? Why I'm using this? Okay, so these waiters, okay, come part of a service. Okay, and that is a client service. And again, like if I show you in the documentation, it will take a little time. So then this would be covered in the training. So what I'm trying to do is from this Boto 3, I'm trying to use a client. Okay, and that client for the time being is S3. So you can use DynamoDB, you can use Lambda, you can use Kinesis, you can use EMR, and it could be whatever. Okay, so here I'm trying to use S3 and I'm trying to use a method, and that is called getWaiter. Okay, and why I'm using it, don't worry about this. Okay, as of now, just see what I'm writing. Okay, so this is because sometimes what happens is the client sends us the file of like 1 GB, sometimes it would be like 13 GB, 18 GB. It should not happen that the client has sent the file and immediately that is taken ahead. It can be a scenario the data is getting uploaded of like millions of records. So at that moment of time, we need to wait till the time complete copy or complete push is done into your landing location. Okay, for that purpose, I'm trying to write this waiter. Please wait till the object perfectly exists. Okay, once this is existing, okay, so from that waiter, okay, so I'm trying to use, and again, like here also I would be using certain keys. Okay, so don't get into that. So again, like this is part of like a documentation, so I will be using bucket over here and I'll be taking a key over here. Okay, so quickly let me take that source bucket where it is. Yeah, let me quickly copy this and let me paste this over here. Let me copy this and let me paste this over here. Okay, so till the time in this bucket my object exists, it will be waiting. Once it is available, okay, so what I need to do is I need to copy this. Okay, what I need to do, I need to copy this. So what I will do is maybe like I'll try to copy that, I will be trying to store that in a response. From the S3, again we have one more thing, one method I would say. So that is nothing but copy object, I would say, not source. Okay, so in this, where you want to take it? Okay, I want to take to my target bucket. So let me copy this target bucket over here. When you're trying to take that copy bucket, okay, so what will be the key? That is nothing but we just created this. And finally, okay, we need to pass this into my copy source. Again, this is a syntax. You always have to write as is. Okay, again, it has more parameters, but I'm just keeping it to small parameters, not in depth parameters. So the response is captured, and let me see that output. Okay, so, and again, like it's a JSON file, so we'll have to use one of the JSON method, that is loads. Okay, so in my json.dumps, I will take that response which I have captured, and as it's having a JSON data, so let me assign to S3, string. And if there are some exceptions coming, I'll have to capture that. Okay, sorry, so let me write some exceptions if some exceptions occur, because as a developer you need to capture them. Okay, so let's see what are the errors which we will get. So error is, and we will just write str of error. Let me deploy this piece of code. Okay, so if all things goes good, so I think like, or otherwise we'll have to, again I will have to debug the code, not you. Okay, so let's test this. So if you see, there is some error which we are getting. Can you see it is telling us, okay, so syntax error in module lambda function. Okay, so it is giving us issue over here, copy source. Okay, so let me go over here and come over here. Okay, so this is where we are getting an error. Okay, so I have used a bucket. Okay, and this should have been key and value. Apologies for that. So that's how like we make errors, and we okay. So let's deploy this and let's test it again. Are there any issues? Okay, cool. Can you see this code is getting executed? It means we are getting a response. Okay, and at the end we are getting, so there is no issue. The code which I have written as of now, it is not giving me any trouble. Okay, cool. So what I'll do is I'll go to my logs. Let me just go to my logs, whatever logs are available. Okay, let me delete this so that I can show you fresh implementation till the time it is getting deleted. So let me remove this. The file is removed, or the JSON file is removed. Let's cross verify that. Let's refresh this. Can you see there is no file available in my target? Okay, again there is no file. Oh, let me remove this also, because the lambda code would have been triggered. So let me delete this manually now. I could have used that CLI also, but let's do that quickly. Let me delete this. So always validation of your code is very mandatory. So there is no code, there is no bucket, there's no JSON file in my source, and at the same time nothing is available in my target. We have constructed a code. Okay, we've tested this on the dummy data, and we were getting some successful response. Now we would be testing that in the actual data. Okay, so that's what we were trying to do. Let me go back to the logs. There should not be any. Cool, looks good to me. Okay, so let's go over here, and simply we just need to copy this file from my local to my bucket. Once the file is uploaded, what will happen is a lambda code will get triggered. Okay, let me just do a quick validation. Yes, as soon as the file appears, we added the trigger, the code would have been triggered. Okay, and it would have generated some log file. Yes, the file is getting generated, the logs are getting generated, which have start and end, no errors, looks good and clean. Let's go to the target, and we should see that bucket over here, the JSON file over here, and we are able to see that JSON file. Okay, cool, beautiful, all looks good. Okay, so we have implemented successfully. We got some glitches, we got some errors, we debugged, we troubleshooted, and we implemented this end-to-end process. Okay, so I'll stop this recording and I'll start